A music executive and community activist is accused of running a criminal empire in Los Angeles. Eugene Henley Jr. facing RICO charges, allegedly tying him to the notorious Rollin' 60s street gang.
They got cameras everywhere. There's no way you can hide. There's no way you can run. It's totally different.
He was LA's self-proclaimed savior, a man who mentored Nipsey Hussle, ran anti-gang programs, and preached peace. But the feds just revealed that Eugene Big U Henley wasn't who he claimed to be. Behind the charity events and community activism was a ruthless gang leader, accused of running a violent empire, embezzling millions, and even eliminating his own artists in cold blood. What really happened to RW? And how did Big U fool everyone for decades?
The federal government usually does not bring these types of charges unless they've done extensive investigation. It looks like he has been under investigation for several years.
We're diving into the evidence that could send him away for life and expose Hollywood's dirtiest secrets along the way. For years, Big U sold himself as a reformed gangster, a community hero who turned his life around after prison. He launched Nipsey Hussle's career, hosted anti-violence rallies, and even rubbed shoulders with NBA stars like Shaq and Draymond Green. But according to the feds, it was all a front. Behind closed doors, Big U allegedly ran a criminal enterprise that controlled LA through fear and intimidation.
If these charges are true, because they're still allegations, they are not a done deal, they're allegations. If they're true, then Eugene Henley was somebody who presented two faces to this world.
From extorting celebrities to orchestrating M's, the feds say his empire was built on lies, and now they've got the receipts to prove it. This isn't just about one man, it's about how Hollywood let him operate in plain sight for decades. Eugene Big U Henley wasn't just a name in LA. He was a force. To some, he was a reformed gangster who turned his life around, mentoring Nipsey Hussle, running anti-gang programs, and uplifting his community. But to others, he was still the ruthless enforcer of the Rollin' 60s Crips, pulling strings behind the scenes while wearing the mask of a community hero. The feds claim Big U's transformation was nothing but a facade. According to an indictment years in the making, his nonprofit, Developing Options, wasn't just about helping kids, it was a front for embezzlement and fraud. And while he posed for photos with city officials and celebrities like Shaq and Draymond Green, the feds say he was orchestrating robberies, extortion schemes, and even M's.
A career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips criminal street gang, the entertainment industry, and a youth charity to further his own criminal enterprise.
Big U's rise to power started in the 1980s, when he earned his reputation as an enforcer for the Rollin' 60s Crips. But after his release from prison in 2004, he didn't just return to the streets, he leveled up. The feds allege that Big U created his own criminal enterprise separate from the gang, targeting professional athletes, musicians, and anyone who dared to do business in Los Angeles without his approval. Big U didn't just control LA's streets, he controlled its image. By aligning himself with Nipsey Hussle and other rising stars, he crafted a narrative of redemption that fooled everyone. Until now. The feds have been watching for years, and they're finally ready to reveal what they found.
The federal government usually does not bring these types of charges unless they've done extensive investigation. It looks like he has been under investigation for several years.
So how did Big U manage to fool so many people for so long? And what role did his nonprofit play in hiding his crimes? As we dig deeper into this story, you'll see just how far-reaching his empire really was, and why it's all coming crashing down now. When you stepped into Los Angeles, there was an unspoken rule. You had to check in. But for Big U, this wasn't just a courtesy, it was a business. A dangerous, calculated system that allowed him to control not just the streets, but the city's most powerful visitors. Athletes, rappers, and even business moguls, no one was safe from Big U's grip. The feds allege that Big U's check-in system wasn't about respect, it was about extortion. If you wanted to conduct business in LA, you had to pay Big U's enterprise for protection, and if you didn't, you suffered the consequences. Federal documents detail how individuals were forced to pay thousands of dollars just to avoid robbery or worse. One dispensary owner paid $25,000 a month for protection until he stopped, and nearly a dozen armed men stormed his shop in retaliation.
When I go to Chicago, I respect Chicago wholeheartedly. I check in. When I go to Atlanta, I check in. When I go places, I check in. And I don't think nobody is safe. I know dudes right now from LA.
And while we're talking about the whole check-in system, Big U carried out a fear-mongering campaign. And visiting his interviews now, it looks like he cashed in pretty big bucks during these check-ins.
If he ever find out who did that, he gonna knock everybody down. You understand what I'm saying? You just caught slipping. You know, that's how it is. You know what I mean? And you try your best not to be slipping.
Based on my review of documents in the course of this investigation, Developing Options appears to have failed to comply with some or potentially all of those requirements.
But it wasn't just small businesses. Big U's reach extended to some of the biggest names in sports and music. NBA stars were allegedly cheated out of millions in rigged dice games and then forced to pay Big U $100,000 for recovering their money. And rappers who didn't check in, their lives were put at risk. Quando Rondo's cousin was eliminated after allegedly failing to follow the check-in protocol. A chilling example of how Big U enforced his rules. Big U didn't just operate in the shadows, he flaunted his power openly. On podcasts like Nothing to Something, he warned visitors, if you don't check in, suffer the consequences. This wasn't just intimidation, it was a calculated move to solidify his reputation as LA's untouchable kingpin. The system wasn't just about extortion, it was about control. By forcing celebrities and athletes into his orbit, Big U created an empire built on fear and loyalty. The feds say this scheme allowed him to manipulate not just individuals, but entire industries, making him one of the most powerful figures in LA.
Henley's own words shows that wasn't true. The complaint says that Big U used his mafia-like enterprise to intimidate businesses and individuals in the community, and they used an interaction between him and Nipsey Hussle to illustrate how they say the enterprise was ran.
For years, Big U's name carried weight in Los Angeles, but what happened on January 24, 2021, may have been the moment that unraveled his empire. This wasn't just another crime, it was personal. RW, a young rapper signed to Big U's label, recorded a diss track mocking Big U and questioning his authority. Days later, RW was found dead in the Nevada desert, shot in the face and left to rot by the highway. But what investigators uncovered next ties Big U directly to the scene of the crime, and it's even more chilling than anyone imagined. RW's trip to Las Vegas was arranged by Big U himself. According to witnesses and court documents, RW was recording music at an Airbnb studio with Big U and his associates. Surveillance footage shows RW leaving the studio late at night with a suitcase and getting into a car. But here's where things get suspicious. Big U's phone, which had been tracking his location all day, suddenly went dark for 45 minutes. When it came back online, RW had vanished.
Investigators noted Big U's phone location data and witnesses showed he arrived to Vegas at an Airbnb. On January 24th of 2021, Big U arrived to a studio and RW was there, recording until around midnight. A little after 12:30 a.m., Big U left the studio and his phone stopped reporting his location.
Investigators pieced together RW's final hours using DNA evidence and witness testimonies. His body was discovered near Interstate 15 with multiple gunshot wounds. Drag marks around his ankles suggested he was pulled into the desert after being eliminated. And here's the eerie part. RW wasn't dressed for the freezing January weather, raising questions about whether he was ambushed or forced into the car against his will. But this wasn't just a random act of violence. It was calculated. Witnesses told investigators that shortly after RW's Big U's associates removed video recording equipment from the studio, footage that could have shown exactly what happened that night. Federal agents believe this footage would have revealed an altercation between Big U and RW shortly before the
His body was found on the side of the road near Interstate 15. Investigators say he died from multiple gunshot wounds. They also noted he wasn't dressed for the weather. Remember, it's late January around this time.
RW's family also revealed disturbing details about Big U's behavior leading up to the For weeks before the trip, Big U called RW's aunt regularly, checking in on him and arranging his travel plans. But after RW's death, silence. He cut off all contact with RW's family and refused to answer their questions about what really happened in Vegas. The feds didn't stop there. They launched a wiretap investigation into Big U in 2023, uncovering evidence that he ordered witnesses not to speak with police about RW's This wasn't just about protecting himself. It was about protecting his entire enterprise from being exposed. And here's where things get even more sinister. Federal agents allege that RW wasn't the only victim tied to Big U's empire. They're now investigating whether Big U played a role in other high-profile deaths, including Nipsey Hussle and PNB Rock, raising questions about just how far-reaching his influence really was. So why did it take so long for this case to come together? Legal experts say RICO cases like this are incredibly complex. They require airtight evidence and cooperation from insiders who may be too scared to talk. But now that the indictment is here, one thing is clear. This isn't just about 1M. It's about dismantling an empire built on fear and violence. When the feds finally moved in on Eugene Big U Henley, it wasn't just years of surveillance and evidence that brought him down, it was betrayal. Someone from inside his inner circle tipped off investigators, and now Big U's empire is crumbling faster than anyone could have imagined. According to DJ Academics, WAC 100 played a key role in exposing Big U's alleged crimes. WAC, a longtime rival of Big U, reportedly fed information to federal agents about Big U's involvement in extortion, robberies, and even M. And while WAC hasn't confirmed these allegations publicly, insiders claim his cooperation was instrumental in building the case against Big U.
I will say some of what you may have done may have helped with the timing, right? I think you.
What's that?
I think you tipping off Big U.
But WAC wasn't the only one talking. Adam22 from No Jumper revealed that Loose Cannon, one of Big U's closest associates, also turned on him. Loose Cannon allegedly provided details about how Big U orchestrated robberies and extortion schemes across LA, including the infamous check-in system that targeted celebrities and athletes.
You obviously co-signed Loose Cannon telling the story about how Big U basically got Nipsey killed or whatever.
We never said he got Nipsey killed.
Okay, but you're saying that he had premeditated knowledge that Nipsey was going to get killed.
No, what he's saying is...
And that didn't really pan out, although a lot of people are now looking at those statements as if they might have a lot more validity than they once did.
This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a complete unraveling of Big U's operation. The indictment names several defendants alongside Big U, including Sylvester Robinson, aka V, Mark Martin, aka Bearclaw, and Tremaine Williams, aka Loose Cannon. Each of them is accused of playing a role in the criminal enterprise, from organizing robberies to intimidating witnesses. Legal experts say the feds are using RICO laws to dismantle Big U's organization piece by piece. In a RICO case, every defendant is liable for every charge in the indictment, meaning even those with minor roles could face life in prison if convicted. And with insiders like Loose Cannon flipping on Big U, prosecutors now have access to the kind of information they've been chasing for years. But here's where things get even more complicated. Big U isn't going down quietly. Before turning himself in, he posted a series of videos on Instagram swearing by his innocence and calling out WAC 100 for allegedly framing him. He claimed the feds were targeting him unfairly and vowed to fight the charges with everything he had.
I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to... I don't even know what to say. People are supposed to help me. I hope you help me. You can't, you don't worry about it. A lot of stuff y'all hearing is straight trash. And I appreciate the love, and I appreciate people who've been helping me.
And along with WAC, Bog U wasn't afraid to call out other alleged rats that destroyed his narrative.
And I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about WAC. WAC, Loose Cannon, 600, and this internet stuff. All of y'all filed. All y'all who be sending shit around the internet, all y'all who be promoting and listening to what these niggas saying, all y'all giving these likes and hidden likes, all y'all supporting this.
Big U supporters haven't abandoned him either. Members of the black community have rallied around him, believing he's being unfairly targeted because of his past ties to gang life. Social workers and activists have come forward defending his work with developing options, arguing that he genuinely helped reduce gang violence in South LA. But as more evidence comes to light, from wiretaps to witness testimonies, it's becoming harder for even his staunchest defenders to ignore the allegations against him. The feds claim they've built an airtight case against Big U, one that could send him away for life.
That they have some very solid evidence, enough that, they're willing to disclose so much. And I was really surprised that Big U went live on his way to jail. I think that at this point, as in most situations, there's nothing he can say across social media that's going to help him fight his case.
Big U's influence didn't stop at the streets. For years, he had a chokehold on Hollywood's elite, using fear, loyalty, and his infamous check-in system to control rappers, athletes, and even influencers. But now as the feds dig deeper into his empire, shocking names are starting to surface. Names that could change everything we thought we knew about LA's entertainment industry. According to the indictment, Big U's enterprise didn't just extort local businesses, it targeted celebrities who visited Los Angeles for work or leisure. NBA stars like Draymond Green and Shaquille O'Neal were allegedly caught in his web. In one instance, Shaq donated $220,000 to Big U's nonprofit Developing Options, money that was supposed to go toward youth programs and sports teams like the Crenshaw Rams. But instead of helping the community, federal agents claim Big U funneled most of that money into his personal account. Draymond Green wasn't spared either. In 2019, he donated $20,000 to Developing Options, money that also ended up in Big U's pocket. And here's where it gets even darker. Big U allegedly used these donations as leverage to maintain control over these celebrities, ensuring that they stayed loyal and silent about his activities. But it wasn't just athletes. Big U's check-in system targeted rappers too. Quando Rondo learned this the hard way when he allegedly failed to check in with Big U before coming to LA. The result? His cousin was M'd in what federal agents describe as an act of sanctioned violence. This wasn't just a warning, it was a message to anyone who dared to defy Big U's rules. And then there's the case of Nipsey Hussle, a name forever tied to Big U's legacy. While Big U has long claimed that he mentored Nipsey and helped launch his career, rumors have swirled for years about their falling out before Nipsey's tragic death in 2019. Some insiders now speculate that Big U may have played a role in orchestrating the events leading up to Nipsey's M, a theory the feds are reportedly investigating as part of their larger case against him. Now, the biggest giveaway of Big U's involvement was his very first IG Live after Nipsey's death. He laughed.
Wait, what you waiting on, though? You don't know what you waiting on, though, nigga. What you waiting on? You got to tell us what you waiting on. Damn, my mama broke you with a
Justice for them.
It took the feds over 4 years to bring Eugene Big U Henley to justice. But the complexity of this case goes far beyond what most people realize. This wasn't just about one crime. It was about dismantling an entire empire. And as the details of the indictment come to light, it's clear that the feds weren't just chasing Big U, they were hunting everyone tied to his organization. The indictment is staggering in its scope. It alleges that Big U and his associates committed crimes ranging from extortion and robbery to embezzlement and M. But here's where things get even more shocking. Under RICO laws, every defendant named in the indictment is liable for every single charge. This means that even those with minor roles could face life in prison if convicted.
At some point, and it could come from different sources. It doesn't necessarily have to be an informant that's mentioned in an indictment. It could be someone that they've dealt with in the past that's renounced the gang lifestyle, but they definitely have to have someone from the inside or someone that was in the inside at one point.
The indictment against Big U is more than 100 pages long. Now, in their case, the feds say he ran a mafia-like enterprise. He's accused of murder, kidnapping, embezzlement, robbery, and extortion. And that's just to name a few.
Legal experts say RICO cases are notoriously difficult to prosecute because they require airtight evidence and cooperation from insiders who may be too scared to talk. But according to the feds, they've been building their case for years using wiretaps, surveillance footage, and witness testimonies. And while some insiders initially refused to cooperate out of fear of retaliation, others eventually flipped, providing the kind of information that prosecutors needed to connect the dots. The feds also relied heavily on digital evidence, including text messages, emails, and social media posts, to build their case against Big U. Investigators claim these communications reveal a pattern of coordination between Big U and his associates, showing how they planned robberies, extorted victims, and intimidated witnesses.
Very well written, very well laid out, and definitely when you read the indictment, it definitely gives you a different picture than, what Big U has displayed over social media. And
sources suggest that the feds have an airtight case against Big U, and now they are just waiting for a court hearing to air out everything that was buried under lies and deception.
So what they doing is they go on the internet and these dudes say
that I did shit on the internet. Then when you say I did on the internet, they go investigate it. Now you raiding my houses, raiding my shops, raiding all this stuff, and talking about I'm committing crimes and covering up with developing option.
Charges in this gang bust range from racketeering to murder. A second fugitive the FBI was looking for was also apprehended. The FBI says Henley is from the Hyde Park area of South LA. If convicted, he would face a max sentence of life in federal prison.
You know, they mentioned all these other gang members that he was associated with. And, you know, the entertainment check is not going to be enough to support all of those people. So, I mean, if they're going to be part of the entourage, he has to find a way for them to eat.
Big U's empire is crumbling, but this case is far from over. With shocking allegations, insider betrayals, and Hollywood ties still under investigation, the fallout could expose secrets that will shake LA to its core. Do you think Big U is guilty, or is there more to this story than meets the eye?